Chapter Point 2 Status/Oracle System. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Here is a summary of how the Oracle works, which I will complete as the story progresses. You'll also find here Jake's stats and skills, and other characters if you ask me, in this section, with the chapter number to which they correspond. The Oracle device has two main functions: status and guidance. Asterisk guidance equals prediction, shadow guide and coaching. Prediction. Give a path to achieve what you want, shadow guide. Is a self. Double showing how to achieve the path, coaching. Shows the rewards, drawbacks and risks associated with a path. May also present opportunities in the form of missions or quests. Asterisk status equals stats plus skills proficiencies. There are two different statuses equals ether status and body status. Both status combined give the real status. Body status equals attributes of our body, depending on the genetic code. Equals U003E. It's a raw value, like mass, that doesn't change with gravity, unlike weight. It corresponds to the quality of the body. The attributes are strength, S, agility, A, constitution, C, vitality, V, intelligence, I, perception, P. The average is 10 points for a full-grown man. Ether status equals attributes of the ether, depending on the etheric code. Equals U003E. The ether is pure energy preceding and present in everything. Ether is 003E. Energy is 003E. Matter. The ether level/density determines how matter and energy interact, via a coefficient. On Earth, the average is 10 points also to make a symmetry with the body status, but the coefficient is 1, so divide by 10. Body status * ether status equals real attributes examples. On Earth, body stats equals real stats, because ether coefficient equals 1, equals 10 ether points. On other planets the ether coefficient can change, like the gravity and so on. Spoiler. You must be up to date on the novel to read what is marked below. Jake status. Chapter 99, First Ordeal, Ether status. Strength, S. 35 points, Agility, A. 32 points, Constitution, C. 27 points, Vitality, V. 17 points, Intelligence, I. 12 points, Perception, P. 10.5 points, Body status. Height. 1.81 meters, plus 5, weight. 82 kg, plus 15, strength. 22.3, plus 20, points. Agility. 15.5, 0.2, points, Constitution. 19.2, plus 20 plus 10 is equal to plus 30, points, Vitality. 22.6, plus 10 plus 10 is equal to 20, points, Intelligence. 16.1, 0.3, points, Perception. 11.6, plus 5 plus 3, points. The bonuses in brackets correspond to the Throstjan's blessing and the Throstjanian physique. Only during the ordeal. Throstjan's blessing. Sturdy body. Constitution plus 10, Vitality plus 10, Perception plus 3. Throstjanian physique. Strength plus 20, Agility .2, Constitution plus 20, Vitality plus 10, Intelligence .3, Perception plus 5. Real status. Just as an example. I don't give it in the story. Strength, S. 142.05 points, Agility, A. 43.2 points, Constitution, C. 132.84 points, Vitality, V. 72.42 points, Intelligence, I. 15.72 points, Perception, P. 20.58 points. Jake status. Ch 147, beginning of Volume 3, Ether status. Strength, S. 100 points, Agility, A. 100 points, Constitution, C. 100 points, Vitality, V. 100 points, intelligence, I. 100 points, perception, P. 100 points, extrasensory perception. 20 points, body status. Height. 1.88 meters, weight. 95 kilograms, strength. 37.3 points. Agility. 30.5 points, constitution. 36.2 points, vitality. 37.6 points, intelligence. 18.4 points, perception. 13.6 points. Chapter 1 The Day Everything Changed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Beep, beep, beep. Beep. Smash. Fucking morning, a man sighed, his eyes still half closed as his alarm clock crashed to the floor. His clenched fist was frozen on the bedside table where the damned object should have been. Usually, he would have gone back to sleep, convincing himself there was still time. Not this time. That didn't happen often. It should have made him think. This morning, the young man untangled himself surprisingly well from his blankets. Rising shirtless, 6 feet tall, and over 20 years old, the first thought you'd have when you saw him would have been that he was average looking. Despite being slightly overweight, he looked good with his clothes on. Someone observant enough might perceive the outline of a few muscles, remnants of an ancient past where he was willing to work out and moderate his junk food intake. But today, his motivation was running out. His skin was pale and he had dark circles under his eyes. He played too many video games and worked daily on the computer. A little acne, not a lot, but enough to show that he was going off the rails. A brown mane, never touched by scissors, and a 2-week-old thick beard decorated all these flattering features. Fortunately, his face still had some potential. Fine, sharp traits and smoldering eyes contrasted with his lack of delicacy. From time to time, a sad melancholic glint would replace it, quickly stifled by a frown. This young man's name was Jake Wilderth. Orphaned since the age of 3, his parents had died in the fake Third World War in 2084 like many others. He was 25 years old today. Raised since then by his uncle Kalen with his cousin Anya, his uncle's daughter. His childhood had been a quiet river. Well, almost. The Wilderths were an old family, not aristocratic or bourgeois, but arrogant and demanding enough to give a hard life to their descendants. Why would you ask? No family heirloom, no historical secrets, no great cause to defend. Then what was it? Pure pride. The Wilderths all had one thing in common. They were smart. Not miraculously smart or geniuses of the century. It was actually a standard IQ of 130 or higher. Some might say that genetic didn't matter so much or that IQ was not a good measure of intelligence. Emotional intelligence was, after all, much more useful when it came to being successful in life. Yet, when it became a generality in a large family, it changed everything. When a child was limited or mentally retarded, the parents would be much more tolerant, letting them do what they wanted. There would be no requirements. When the child was exceptional, in contrast to the previous example, parents would become strict. On the one hand, they would not want their child to waste his or her talent. On the other hand, they would often unconsciously transfer their own failed dreams to them. With the Wilderths, there was a third consideration. Not to embarrass themselves. If you were more successful than your cousins, aunts or uncles, that was fine, but you couldn't be less successful. The mockery born of comparisons would nip any form of happiness in the bud. That's what happened to Jake. His uncle was benevolent and his cousin Anya protective. He grew up peacefully. Yet, whether it was because he was introverted or because the death of his first parents affected him, he had few friends. The excellent facilities at school made it easy for him to go to university, but never taught him to cram and work hard. The sheltered life created an indecisive and procrastinating mindset. He had no idea what he wanted to do with his life, as increasing pressure from other family members made him increasingly uncomfortable. Like many lonely and asocial nerds before him, he found a way out of reality by reading, binge-watching and playing video games. It wasn't so bad. As an intelligent and logical man, he chose to link his future career to his current pleasures. He then enrolled in a university specializing in programming and informatics. Unfortunately, he soon got bored. The volume of learning was incomparable with the amount of work in high school. Even for him, it required some effort. The pleasure of playing video games and the pleasure of making them were as far apart as possible. The consequence of this was that he dropped out. He tried a few curricula such as management or cybernetics, but the boredom was still strong. He came out with a degree in cybernetics and programming, with his uncle discreetly using his circle of acquaintances to save this sinking ship of a nephew. This academic path might have seemed strange at the beginning of the 21st century, but not in the 22nd. The technology of quantum computing was mature. The limit predicted for the miniaturization of transistors by Moore's law had been solved. The performance of computers had again improved rapidly. Artificial intelligence and bioengineering had made huge advances. Nano-cybernetics was also on the right track. Earth had managed to create its first colony on Mars more than 40 years ago. 3D printing was perfected, even allowing organs to be duplicated or recreated using donor cells as ink. And yes, medicine had also developed a lot. Fortunately for the people of Earth, we could still feel the ravages of the fake Third World War everywhere. Even 25 years later. After 2070, geopolitical tensions escalated. The Earth had more than 10 billion inhabitants and access to drinking water was no longer guaranteed. Global warming accelerated the melting of sea ice, leading to the disappearance underwater of many well-known coastal cities and a group of oceanic islands. Rich countries such as the United States or China adapted easily, making the necessary investments to protect key coastal cities such as New York or Shanghai. Poorer states have had to relocate part of their population inland, suffering a net loss of territory. Oil, water, precious metals or gemstones. As the world continued to drain fossil energies, their market value continued to skyrocket. Naturally, conflicts became more and more frequent. In 2084, the Third World War was about to break out. On May 14 of that same year, a terrible war did indeed break out, but it was far from what it should have been. Even today, the mystery had not yet been completely solved. To sum it up in one sentence. Every major city was annihilated in a single day. Moscow, Tokyo, Paris, Washington, London, the names of every capital city one could think of had been erased from the face of the earth. No explanation was given. No adventurous war reporter crossed the military cordon that cut off civilian access to these areas. Indeed, many people had testified to seeing dazzling nuclear mushrooms blooming in most of these cities. However, many incongruities had quickly manifested themselves through millions of strange testimonies. No government could completely silence the voice of its people. The first anomaly was that all contact, whether by telephone or the internet, had been cut off a few days before the nuclear missiles were fired. Some family members, friends and lovers who made a phone call to people living or working in these big cities had simply heard a loud static noise before hanging up without being able to intervene. After communications were lost, no one came back. Even these days, the governments had not yet given a satisfying justification to the victims' relatives. Add to this the weird evidences via photos or phone videos of psychedelic rainbow light coming from these places, or the few pictures of uncanny airships. People didn't need more to speculate and go with a theory of their own. The terrorist or Third World War theories were, in fact, the less popular. The dominant one was the alien invasion. Not on account of the rare peculiar ship pictures or government silence, but because an Earth government saw the light of day soon after. If you once had in your life any interest in history or politics, you then probably know that even if there was a clear loser from either side, negotiations should have taken a long time. Months if not years before agreeing for a consensus. Especially in the theoretical case of a Third World War in which many countries would be involved. However, it happened. The Earth Government or United Earth Government. Created in barely 4 days, every religion and power speaking out from the same voice. Understandably, this new Earth Government couldn't give no response at all either. They chose a rarely seen solution in politic. Temporize. 2 years after the false Third World War, as it was called now, the stabilized government made an announcement to pacify the mobs. It was rebroadcasted so many times that Jake could recite it by heart, in spite of his young age back then. Earth citizens, what happened on the May 14th is so unprecedented that it can't be resumed in a few words. Regrettably, we can't tell you the truth of what happened right now. We are investigating at the present time, and the bit that we know is so tremendous that most people wouldn't be ready for this. In the years to come, the way we live will change, but you will put up with this. You will adapt effortlessly compared to what is to come. The day of no return will be 2 decades in the future. In about 20 years from now, something will happen on a very particular day. Even we can't say when it will happen exactly, we could be off from a few months to several years. But it will happen. Then our lives will not ever be the same. It was 20.2 years ago. They were 2 years off. Jake, that was now brushing his teeth, didn't know that this morning when he woke up, his life would take a turn he could never have imagined. The day everything changed. The August 16, 2106. Chapter 2 Global Panic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the past, Jake was used to having a plentiful breakfast before going to work. A bowl of milk, a nice amount of cereals, a fruit and maybe a cup of tea or coffee. The typical French breakfast. Sugar before everything else. However, it was more than 5 years ago, when he was still living at his uncle's villa. At this time, he didn't have any sense of food value. He was well fed, with nothing to worry about. What Jake didn't care about in those days was that after the false Third War, when all the notorious and big cities were bombed, there had been a genuine shortage of space and manpower. More than half of every country's population had lived in these towns and capitals. Areas within tens of kilometers radius around these places became wastelands. The inland, usually less populated and normally reserved for agriculture or pasture, became the new metropolis. Capitals and other famous cities were rebuilt, taking, for the most part, their old name with a slight nuance to flag up the transition to the new era. Paris, where his parents worked and died, was resuscitated as New Paris. It was built right in the center of France, a place with originally nothing but cows. Needless to say, it took up a lot of space. Far too much in fact. That meant less arable lands. Thus, food abundance came to an end. The good news was that depending on the concerned countries the population was halved. That was something to rejoice about. Cough. Always being optimistic. Positive attitude in all situations. It should have been fine. Less space, fewer people, the winning combo. The reality was a bit different. With fear, people copulated like rabbits. In 20 years, the average couple churned out 3 to 4 babies, sometimes 5 or more. Welfare was quite generous at first for those that lost a close relative or friend, sometimes even losing their job. The false sensation of safety during the beginning of the nuclear winter made panicked people even crazier. Demography got right back to the numbers before the false World War, but food production didn't increase as fast. As a result, all food-related stuff naturally saw its prices rising sharply. For those that couldn't afford them, vegan powder blends became their new best friend. In a desire of not discarding eating pleasure, insects were also part of these happy meal ingredients for all those that couldn't suppress their carnivorous instincts. Junk drinks and food were still affordable, though. Anyway. No breakfast for Jake. This shit twice a day was disgusting enough. Ah yes, do not forget the iodine tablet twice a day. The radiation level was still above normal. Without medicine and nanobiotics advances, cancer would have killed a good part of the survivors remaining. He soon came out in a hurry from his studio well located in the uptown of New Paris. Well, the truth was most districts were about the same. The city was new after all and built in a short time. Other than a few exceptions, accommodations were basically all social housing within the first years. He jumped in the first cab he caught, quickly relaxing as the scenery passed by the window. The driver was like a mute, also lost in her own thoughts. A middle-aged woman with dark hair grizzled by worries and sleep deprivation. He never arrived at his working place. Just a few minutes after he got in the car, a pure white flash turned the world around him into a blinding white. A sound of screeching tire made his hair stand on end, as the taxi owner dug her heels in. Jake's head banged into the front seat as the vehicle came to a standstill. Stars whirled around him, adding new dazzling colors to the flash afterimages on his retinas. Screams from all sides were hammering his skull, stopping him from getting a grip on himself. Other sounds of pile UPS and car crashes didn't help to alleviate his mind. After a while, his sight came back and with it a scene of disaster. A few people were having an epileptic seizure on the sidewalk because of the sudden burst of light. One unlucky boy got one in the middle of a crosswalk. Here was how the first pile up had happened. Another driver panicked and went off road, striking a few grandmothers getting out of the grocery store, before embedding himself in an electric pole. No need to say, he was not the only one losing his composure. There were blood and overturned vehicles everywhere. It truly was a dreadful sight. Then, he raised his eyes, where the flash came from. They immediately popped out of their sockets as what he saw was so unbelievable, that he could hardly keep himself in check. A silver metallic sphere was floating in the sky. Mysterious futuristic blue lines of light roamed over its smooth and polished surface. It was also huge. Gigantic enough to cover the whole of New Paris with its shade. But even more impressive, you could catch a glimpse of an even bigger sphere far higher in the sky. If his intuition was right, it was bigger than the moon. Good heavens! It was a spaceship. A fucking alien battleship. They were reliving Independence Day movie right at this moment. Rapidly, other bystanders noticed the sphere ships. A new wave of screams and shrieks resumed with greater intensity. However, it didn't last for long. The blue lines of light quickly thickened, becoming brighter and brighter. After what seemed to be an eternity, something sprang out. Millions of bat-sized silver spheres gushed out, spreading out fast toward the ground. Toward them. People didn't need more to turn around and initiate the dash of their life. Jake even saw an 80-year-old hunchback with a walking stick, suddenly throw it away before sprinting like a teenager under steroids. Adrenaline could make a miracle happen. Though, this old guy would surely pay the price of his feet afterward. Jake didn't run. He had never been especially courageous, but he was not cowardly either. Most of all, he was rational. These spherical drones were absurdly fast, almost breaking the sound barrier, so why run away? These machines would be on them in 10 seconds at the latest. In fact, they were even faster. Before realizing anything, a silver sphere was on him. A blue light scanned him silently. Then the same lines appeared on its surface. A black metal liquid streamed out of them, flowing toward his right arm. The liquid circled around his wrist for a while, each revolution drawing it closer to his wrist. A few seconds later a new shiny limited Apple Watch edition, a alien bracelet was occupying his right wrist. Glancing around, he saw many people that had a vacant look at their new ornament. Some fools were still in a full-speed dash, running like there was no tomorrow. They were soon caught up by the drones as well. The situation quickly settled down. People were snapping out of their fear state one by one. There were still blood and corpses all around them, but authorities could deal with that. To their greatest delights, the drones flew back to the silver sphere, that in turn soared, vanishing as abruptly as it came, like a fleeting memory. The enormous moon ship also flashed by, disappearing like a spark. It left a bad aftertaste to everyone. It was their first official encounter with extraterrestrials, historic date, but it had already ended. It was time to go back to reality. People that had to write accident reports wrote them, those that had to call their insurance or ambulance called them. Fortunately, in the 22nd century, most vehicles were driving autonomously, and emergency procedures were almost totally automated. The few car crashes were due to passionate drivers that didn't want to give up their guilty pleasure. Most bus or cab drivers didn't even drive their own car. They were just sitting by, cashing in their customers. VZZZZT. VZZZZT. His phone vibrated in his shorts pocket, playing some epic tune much more pleasant than his alarm clock. Although smartphones were now powerful enough to compare to supercomputers from the beginning of the 21st century, they basically didn't change much. Waterproof, malleable like chewing gum, nice holograms, but inherently the same. He answered the call. It was his cousin, Anya. 3 weeks since they last talked. Jake, tell me you're okay, she said with a tremoring voice full of worry. The number is not available now, please try again later, fucking asshole. She yelled enraged. Here I was, worrying for nothing, damned idiot. What I am supposed to do with you? I'm fine, thanks. I'll call in sick for today. I need to examine this thing on my wrist. I won't be able to work like this anyway. Okay Jake, you certainly won't be the only one taking a day off. I need to hang up. Call me if you need me. Bye. Anya calls were always like this. She would check on him and then would end the call just after. They were closer when they were young, but she had a full-time work at the Earth government that took all of her time. Today's event should have put her under even more pressure. At last, Jake called in sick without issue, then came back home. The time has finally come to discover what secret this alien bracelet was hiding. Chapter 3 The Oracle System Part 1 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Once at home, Jake threw himself on the black leather sofa. This day at work had been short, but he was already exhausted with all the unforeseen developments. He found within himself the strength to stand up again to brew a cup of coffee. Lyophilized coffee, if that interests anyone. He was not rich, but not so poor he couldn't afford a good coffee machine. He was just lazy. Stir a teaspoon of freeze-dried coffee in hot water and it was done. Sorry, for the purists. After having swallowed a few mouthfuls and closed his eyes for a bit, he finally focused his sight on his right wrist. Upon close observation, the black liquid metal was still slowly revolving around his arm. The rotation speed had come to a crawl, but he could still feel the bracelet flowing over him if that made sense to you. Each spinning was reducing the space between the metallic surface and his skin, making him feel more and more uncomfortable. Anxious, Jake tried to take it off by force, but the liquid bracelet violently constricted instead. This alien thing was bluntly rejecting his attempts to escape its tactile attentions. In fact, the revolving speed sharply increased in answer. Realizing that he would not succeed to get rid of the shifty thing, he took a break for a while by turning on the TV. He switched the information channel on, hoping to get a bit of fresh news after this morning's turmoil. It was barely past 9 o'clock a.m. And indeed the breaking news didn't disappoint. The Earth United Government's president had already called for a press conference as a matter of urgency. The new Earth's leader was actually a 60-year-old Russian, bald like an egg. He was sweating and panting like a 300-kilogram obese running a summer marathon with a parka. The poor guy had visibly some hard time to handle the pressure. It was more an empty title right now than a real position of power, as this hot potato of leading a planet changed country hands every year. It was one of the decisions voted when the Earth government was founded to share responsibilities and stabilize the world after the previous war. Life didn't change much after this for normal Earth citizens. The government seemed impressively united, and negotiations had gone well. The next turn would be China again, then the USA. Other rich countries could have a try to the leading role, but surprisingly no one offered their candidacy. Hopefully, the president's speech would give him some parts of the answer. Good morning or evening, dear fellow citizens. At this moment, you should all be wearing a bracelet like the one on my right wrist, he said with a strong Russian accent, showing his forearm to the camera. Don't panic, it is perfectly normal. In fact, it is a good thing. Every living creature on this planet has now such a bracelet. It can't be removed until death, so don't lose your time in vain. In a few minutes, this device will completely synchronize with your mind and body, becoming a part of yourself forever. The government has been owning a few of these things for 20.2 years. I can assure you they are not a danger, they can only benefit you. Now keep your calm until the integration process ends. The panic and the casualties resulting from the earlier event are regrettable, but these devices are our future. Good luck, Earth citizens. The president then dropped the micro like a damned rock star, before running away from the mad wolves of reporters that clearly needed more answers to feed their interview. No explanations about the alien spaceship were given. Not even a word. Jake was frustrated too. The government undoubtedly knew something. They were not as panicky as them, and these alien technologies were not foreign to them. You could be sure there would be some protest marches in the days coming with all the shits that comes with it. Well, at least no work for today. Deciding that it would be a waste of his time to stress about things he couldn't control, he stared at his right wrist again, waiting for the end of this supposed integration. It felt like forever, the time slowly going by second per second. At last, a strange noise rang in his head, procuring him a strange sensation of pleasure. It was like an armless person discovering the arm he lost was in fact always there. Nothing could compare to such a joy, except maybe. No need to compare further. The bracelet had totally integrated his forearm. He subconsciously knew that he could control it at will, making it vanish under his skin if such was his desire. He also felt an immense presence connected to him, almost infinite. Hesitant, his curiosity finally won over his fear. Jake reached out to the mysterious existence. All of a sudden, blue light burst out of the device, flashing him again. A miraculous screen mode overlapped with his normal sight. An automated woman voice resounded in his ears. The sound came from nowhere but his head. Truly disturbing. Host Jake Wildearth, congratulations on operating the Oracle. As it is your first time encountering such technology, an explanation of the Oracle functions will be given to you. Wait. Why am I wearing this thing in the first place? Jake asked, cutting her off. Earthlings has fulfilled the conditions to be eligible for an Oracle. So you shall wear one. So that's it. That's your explanation. He said, laughing with a dry voice. Even an alien AI could treat him like a joke. Authority level insufficient. Oh, what is my authority level then? 0. Shit. I'm out. This AI was clearly fucking with him, playing him for a fool passing by. His anxiety was already gone. He wanted answers now. So what can you tell me? He asked politely. The functions of the Oracle available at your authority level. Very well. I'm listening. The Oracle system's functions currently available to you are status and guidance. Details such as AI's voice, appearance, humor sense or information display can also be configured at any time. Take heed that the actual settings have been automatically chosen from the host's memories data. No surprise your voice was so sweet to hear. Did you say appearance? You can also appear. He said with an enlightened face. Authority level insufficient. Fuck. He swore again. Continue please. Status function will show all physical and mind data. Your information as follows, attributes calculated according to a fully grown adult male. At this moment, a lot of knowledge concerning him appeared in his mind. He could consult them with a simple thought. Species. Homo sapiens, primitive humanoid species, age .25, height 180 centimeters, weight 87 kilograms, health. Healthy, you will soon be pre-diabetic. Stop this sugar. Your basic attributes are as follows. Note that all attributes are related to each other. Although the current settings show your status as a standard Earth RPG game, it should be noted that in human anatomy high strength, for example, can't coexist with a low constitution. A high level of strength needs fitting bones and muscle density to be sustainable. Strength. 10 points, normal male. 10 points. Strength is a compound value of different types of strength. Isometric, plyometric, eccentric and concentric strength values from every muscle are involved in the final calculation. Two humans with the same strength value can have different muscular strength and very different builds. A world-level bodybuilder could have the same score as a world-level sprinter. The former would crush the latter in charge lifting, whereas he would have a hard time to keep up with the sprinter's speed and explosiveness. Agility. 8 points, normal male. 10 points. Agility is a compound value of reaction speed, reflexes, coordination, balance, body control, and suppleness values. Two humans with the same agility value can have very different builds. Constitution. 9 points, normal male. 10 points. Constitution is a compound value of stamina, toughness, body density, blood amount and your immune system. Toughness can refer both to the hardness of your body or the one of your cells as well. It usually correlates with a higher body density and thus a higher mass as well. Vitality. 9 points, normal male. 10 points. The natural pendant of constitution. Vitality is a compound value of cell vitality, your metabolism, and cell repair efficiency. It can be affected by your diet. Note that vitality is different from lifespan. For example, mice have a strong vitality, with a very high metabolism, but they die fast. A perfect DNA repair ability could increase your lifespan limit, but on Earth, such an ability is unheard of. Intelligence. 13 points, normal male. 10 points. Intelligence is a compound value of reaction speed, memory, ability to focus, mental strength, processing speed, visualization, creativity, and many other cognitive abilities. Note down that psychological issues wouldn't necessarily be solved by a higher intelligence and could instead be exacerbated. Perception. 10 points, normal male. 10 points. Perception is a compound value of each body sense as follows. Sight, hearing, sense of smell, taste, and touch. Other senses may exist but are underdeveloped among Earth humans. Chapter 4 The Oracle System Part 2 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jake stayed silent for a long while after digesting such an amount of information. Not because he couldn't understand these values. After all, in the 22nd century, VR technology was mature and you could easily find a good VRMorp just by randomly choosing a game with closed eyes in the first VR game store you come across. Did we precise how Jake the king of procrastinators was earning his living? As the latter never arrived at work, you never figured it out. Well, he was in fact simply doing what he was best at. Doing nothing. It was a bit of an exaggeration but that was essentially true. Using his informatics and cybernetic bachelor, he managed to obtain a job in the VRGF, the Virtual Reality Games Federation. It was the reference in the matter of VR games. On these days, they were more famous than real sports, and an international competition as famous as the Olympic Games or the World Cup of football in the past was held every 2 years. Virtual reality was still far from perfect, you still had to move with your real body in real life. However, with good quality gears, you could have very immersive gaming experience. A multi-directional treadmill big enough could allow you to walk, run, even jump without feeling yourself limited by a lack of space. A fitting VR suit with captors could reproduce to a certain extent the feeling of touch. A set of cameras could triangulate your position and movements in the game combined with the VR suit feedback. If you could suspend yourself with some adapted ropes, you could even reproduce flying and acrobatics in the game. As for the graphics in the 22nd century, they were flawless. If you had to choose one flaw, that would be that it was expensive. Most lower-middle class could barely afford a VR helmet, not to mention the complete equipment set. That's why a new business opportunity was soon smelled by the investors. VR game arcade rooms. Most of them, those with the best facilities, belonged to the VRGF. These places generally were composed of a few tens of fully equipped VR rooms and a VR store selling any materials you might need. The VR competitions or tournaments were also hosted in these VR centers. Indeed, cheating also existed with VR games. Especially with VR games. And what Jake could say about this was that he himself was a genuine professional cheater too. No, it was not what you imagined. He truly wanted to experience VR by the rules. But even if he didn't cheat, people would continue. Take any popular battle.survival FPS of the moment. The average duration game was 45 minutes. Your character could easily run 4 to 6 miles in a single game. Seen like this, modern VR games were the perfect medicine for obesity. Any fat dudes you knew playing video games all day would be beyond recognition in a few weeks. That is what allowed VR games' popularity to surge. The health and fit body enticement. By the way, you could still hear the advertising slogan, 1 hour of playing VR games a day will keep the excess weight away, on every junk food-related publicity. For a time, obesity indeed withdrew, but that was until the first cheaters' arrival. A few years later there were more cheaters than honest gamers. Only VRGF centers were considered safe. That is why the official competitions were all held there. Cheating was, to be frank, quite simple. There were a lot of content and tutorials on the web that explained everything, step by step. You could hack the cameras and feed them some image loops. You could remotely control the treadmill or a humanoid robot wearing a VR suit. It was a bit costly and technical but not impossible for the determined ones. Hence the origin of his skinny fat body. Laziness paired with being a poor loser. The irony was that he worked in such a place. He worked in one of these VRGF centers. Not the biggest ones, but there were still a few tens of employees like him. His job was to maintain the VR equipment and give advice to the customers. The perfect cushy job. So, to get back to the topic, game mechanics were as natural as breathing for him. The mind-blowing thing was the implications behind such data. How did this device recuperate all of his information? Sure, it felt like a part of his body, but there was a big difference between feeling like having an extra limb and having an alien device stuck to your arm squeezing out every little secret of yours. No need to ponder further. The Oracle AI explained. We are fused together until death does us apart. My personal interests lie in yours. You will soon fully understand this. The Oracle functions exist to help you to evolve. If you have not any questions, I will now explain the second feature of status, knowledge and skills. Jake immediately swallowed back the words on his tongue. Damn, it really looked like a game. Did this Oracle also have the ability to extract and tidy such a mass of memories? I have many questions to ask, but I will wait till the end of your explanations. He decided with a firm expression. I am delighted to hear it. I will now proceed with knowledge and skills explanation. This is the second feature of status. Every skill or mastery that the Oracle system deemed proficient enough will thus be represented in your skill list. Knowledge or skill that you look favorably upon will also be displayed, even if you have almost zero knowledge about them. Here is your skill list. Another huge amount of data engulfed his mind. The discomfort soon receded, but what he saw after that almost made him throw up. His skills. Fuck yes, they were his, for sure. This wretched Oracle was far too meticulous for his own good. They needed to talk about privacy after all this. Knowledge and skill masteries. Procrastination. 53241 points, normal human. 28 points. Grand Master proficiency. You procrastinate like no other. You can powerfully put things into perspective and postpone the urgency of every task, duty, or chore. Masturbating. Do I really have to explain how high the level of mastery coming from a nerd with no girlfriend like you could be? After X numbers of shameful skills, all more useless than the others. At last, actual skills and masteries he could be proud of appeared in the listing. Informatics. 76 points, normal human. 8 points. You're not at the novice level anymore. Jake sighed. You do realize it is what my bachelor is all about, right? The AI ignored him. Cyber engineering. 51 points, normal human. 1 points. You are not a novice anymore. Communication. 4 points, normal human. 10 points. Being solitary for too long gave birth to social anxiousness. You can barely talk with your workmates and clients. Your body language and word choices rarely convey your true intention. You also don't have the confidence nor the oral skills needed to perform a public speech or holding a conference. Flip, 50 points, normal human. 0 points. Not bad, you do know some stunts to amuse the crowd. Jake chuckled seeing this skill. It was one of the rare accomplishments he was proud of. He remembered having passed entire days trying to master this move on a trampoline. To impress some friends at school, he finally succeeded to do one on hard ground. However, one failure was enough to put an end to his enthusiasm. Just once, he didn't leap with a good enough footing. As a result, he smashed himself on the secondary school playground in front of all his friends, almost breaking his neck. He was so ashamed that he had not felt any pain. It was the last time he did a flip. Who knew that his mastery of this move was still so high? Fighting. 7 points, normal people. 5 points. You didn't practice any martial art, but you have a ferocious side inside you. You don't play by the rules. Should a hypothetical fight break out, the groin, throat, and eyes would be your instinctive targets. You're not courageous, but don't have any fleeing instinct. Another strange skill. He didn't think he had it in him. He never fought anyone, not even bothering with his cousins that loved seizing every chance to give him some hard time. He did not have an herbivorous mindset, but he was quite rational. Should his procrastinating talent kick in, he would instantly find many reasons telling him why fighting was a bad idea. And do not forget, he was a nerd. His self-confidence was basically zero when it came to having body contact, friendly or not. All the remaining skills at the bottom were common abilities or basic knowledge everyone normally educated should have. Basic actions or specific moves that were considered mastered usually had a skill proficiency of 50. It included basic things like walking or breathing. However, some frequently used skills could have a very low level of mastery. For example, his cooking skill. Cooking. 1 points, normal human. 4 points. You only know how to avoid starving to death. Making pasta or cooking a steak to your liking is not cooking. Or this one. Bed making. 1 point, normal human. 5 points. Pulling up the quilts does not mean making your bed well. A well-done bed brings tidiness in your life. Success begins with a first meaningful action. If he had not realized by now that the Oracle AI had a sense of humor, and a dark one at that, he could just hang himself. Now, he just had to learn what was the last function. Guidance. Chapter 5 Guidance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He was burning from the desire to ask so many questions, all on the tip of his tongue. But somehow he managed to hold on. He would first hear what the Oracle AI had to say about the last available device's function. If you are ready to listen to the guidance function introduction, I will now carry on. Please, do so. Jake had never been so polite, not even with his hierarchical superior at work. Anyone could tell at a glance that he was a shitty actor. Here were the 4 points in communication for you. He could not fake respect even if he wanted it. He had shifty eyes, his grimace more akin to a smirk. Lucky for him, the AI didn't care. She truly seemed to have been configured to work best with him. Her voice was always soft and mellow, even though he could perceive from time to time a vague scorn. However, every time he thought that she had thrown a barb at him, she would always take a formal tone. He could almost imagine her with an innocent baby face. The psychopath kind of course. Well, he didn't dislike this setting. Touché, he had a vicious side inside of him, but no whipping girl to let it on. Bullying an AI was still legal, and obviously, he wouldn't fly off the handle from a program's joke either. The guidance function is the most important ability of the Oracle. It is what allows the Oracle wearers to accomplish their objectives. To fulfill their dreams. The Oracle is bound to the universe it has been built in. According to the concept of determinism, if you have knowledge of every parameter inside a closed system, you can predict the future of the system. The mothership flashed your solar system 1 hour ago, realigning the Earth with the previous model. Therefore, you can activate this function. A flicker of comprehension hit him suddenly. The blinding white light. He exclaimed with a slight elation. He had felt something fishy when he had been blinded, but he couldn't tell what was bothering him back then. From now on, he knew why. How such a powerful light, that could travel through the entire solar system in a second, did not burn his eyes to blindness. Now that he thought about it calmly, he only felt confused for less than a minute. At least, he felt like it was quite short. It didn't make any sense when people could go blind for good just by watching a nuke exploding a few kilometers away without a protective pair of glasses. Subsequent to the false Third World War, quite a few cases of people losing their sight were reported. He understood what the determinist theory entailed. But for this to work, you would need a technology able to obtain every data of the chosen space at the same time. All data, included every physical particle known or unknown, every electromagnetic ray or field, along with a perfect understanding of all physical laws. If unprovable concepts like the soul needed to be understood too. An impossible feat. Moreover, their solar system was not a closed space. Any random comet or asteroid could fly in and thus disrupting the Oracle calculation. The only way it could work was if the entire Milky Way at the very least was part of their closed system. Terrifying. You have guessed right. The whole of your universe is inside the prediction domain of the Oracle. Every move of matter or energy is in our grasp. Every Oracle device like the one you wear is connected to a primary Oracle which is itself linked to a higher level Oracle and so on. This way, the guidance can't be interrupted, except if, authority level insufficient. Oh great. It's been a while. Jake cursed, glaring daggers to the poor AI. Can't say I missed that. I will now activate the guidance function. Only 3 features are available at your current authority level. Prediction, shadow guide and coaching. A new burst of blue light overwhelmed him. Same as when he felt like the Oracle bracelet was a limb he always had, the guidance felt like a real part of him. It was like giving sight back to a blind person from birth. Or seeing new colors for the first time. A marvelous epiphany. He knew straight away how the prediction and shadow guide functionalities worked. Even a 3-month-old baby could use them instinctively. Basically, what you wished for, the prediction ability would tell you the most efficient way to grant it. The more precise the wish, the more specific would be the divination. It was synced with his mind at all time, anticipating his desires and moves to show him the right path. There could be many paths depending on the specificity of his wishes, but the oracle would only show the perfect one. Nevertheless, prediction couldn't answer any questions. You couldn't ask him things like, how will be the weather tomorrow, or, what is? Insert any name of your choice, doing right now. It could only predict how to best accomplish or obtain what you were yearning for at the moment. It implied an action, a movement. If you asked how to get something unreachable, you would only get silence. Despite this restriction, the predicting possibilities were broad. There was absolutely no issue to get a limpid answer when it came to wishes like how to become the new Earth's president or how to make my favorite celebrity fall in love with me in the shortest time. Surprisingly, when Jake expressed these kinds of fantasy-like wishes, he got valid paths. He could not see the whole process, but he could see the next few steps. It was a precaution to protect his brain from short-circuiting and overheating. He couldn't access every little detail, but he could know when a path needed to do some ruthless actions to stride through it till the end, like killing, torturing, raping and other immoral things. He immediately filtered these dark paths. From now on, all the predictions would be politically correct, haha. He could still get under the skirts of any actresses though. Should he follow the right plan, of course. There was still one thing bothering him. Petrifying him. Everyone had such an oracle bracelet. The implications could escalate far further than anyone could imagine. Take a famous actor or actress for example. What if 1 million fans at the same time tried to follow a path to seduce them? Were their paths even doable? Maybe they were, but the real success rate would certainly be zero. The other side of the coin was that you couldn't know when you were part of the path of someone else. You could easily become a stepping stone, or yourself fall in love thinking it was love at first sight, when in fact everything was planned. All these flowery words that made your heart beat so fast. All these compliments right on point. All these adorable attentions. Just a perfectly executed plan, step by step, following the plotline that had been written for you. You could retort that, especially if you were a pretty girl, that you wouldn't be charmed by any boy trying to get you into his set. Up. Sorry to bring you back to Earth, you would. If there was a path, of course. This wish-fulfilling ability had almost no limit. Even if you judged yourself as a straight heterosexual, or only liked blonde skinny women, the determined one would get you if you were not cautious enough. However, do remember that it would only make the paths harder to follow. It didn't mean there wouldn't be any. Was it unfair? Or against the principle of free will? Not really. When a poor ugly introvert boy loved a girl so much that he wanted to kill himself because of the pain while she flirted with the handsome guy of the class, was it fair? Of course not. Fairness was the key word of the oracle. You could get anything, as long as you were ready to put in the effort. If you were seduced or stepped on by any random dude, you could only curse your bad luck. After all, you had an oracle too. You could even wish something like, how can I protect myself or avoid these predators trying to get laid? If such was your desire, the oracle would give you a full time path to follow in order to never meet them. The oracle devices were all linked between them. They would adapt their paths in real time, taking account of every change. Interesting fact, the paths would always be doable for you, but the path already knew from the very start if you would effectively succeed. When they were giving the predictions, they would naturally not forget the other oracle's predictions. Thereby, the path was always true at the prediction time, but it would naturally adjust depending on how well you could execute it. Jake could already picture in his head the waves of chaos that would engulf their world soon enough. Just imagine serial killers using the Oracle predicting ability to avoid the policeman's pursuit. That would be a catastrophe. So, what was the shadow guide? Simple. Prediction was giving the plan, the shadow guide showed you how to follow it. It was a shadow-like version of you. It would do the movements you needed to do to complete a path just a bit before you had to do them. Sometimes a plan could be very complex, requiring very on-point body language or facial expression. In these cases, just having a prediction with the steps to follow was not enough. A guide was needed. It would perform each step of the path perfectly in front of you. Of course, only you could see him. It was like a ghost. If you needed to make a specific grimace, a picture in your mind of the expression to adopt would be shown. If the shadow guide was set to show you the moves too ahead in the future, you took the risk of having the plan changing meantime, drastically increasing the risk of failure. Thus, the more reactive you were, the closer to the present could be the shadow guide. Your chances of success would improve, but only if you could react in time and adequately. Now, there was only one feature to discover. Coaching. Chapter 6 Risk and Reward. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I will now introduce coaching, the last feature of guidance. The Oracle AI declared solemnly. By now, many questions were piling up in Jake's mind. His legs were twitching on the sofa and his head wobbled back and forth. That was what happened when he was slowly losing his cool. A strong impulse of impatience was tickling his self-control, making it harder and harder to ignore. However, he knew somehow, because of their mind link perhaps, that the AI didn't want to be interrupted. He had a hard time believing that the personality of his Oracle AI was the fruit of his own mind, configured to make their relationship the most ideal and smooth. When he tried to reminisce, what was the perfect woman in his dreams, he couldn't help but admit that both of them had one common point. Their voice. But that was it. He was not a submissive person. Introverted, uncommunicative, he was. However, although he had not yet decided what kind of woman he liked, he was pretty sure he wouldn't want her to ignore him like she had already a few times. He didn't modify the AI settings though. Maybe, it was his legendary laziness that was tricking his mind. Or else, he consciously didn't know that he needed such a woman around him. That was even creepier, understood this way. In this case, it would mean that he had absolutely no secret garden to protect his most shameful secrets. Coaching is one of the most useful functions of the Oracle. It will accompany you for every decision you take. Every opportunity, every chance, the coach will help you to weigh the pros and cons. It can be turned on or off at will, but do accept that it can't be totally deactivated. Coaching is the Oracle feature of guidance that will lead you to meaningful choices, allowing you to become a better version of yourself. If prediction and shadow guide are wish fulfilling abilities, which only exist to assist your will, coaching has for purpose to help you to evolve further. It will display in an understandable way the possible rewards and punishments normally following your decisions, should you perform them until the end. This way, it gives you a better understanding of your choices' implications. However, that is only potential rewards or punishments. You could badly perform or change your mind midway. Even when you're walking along a path, the potential rewards displayed would only be under the assumption that you perfectly accomplish it. Otherwise, you would only obtain a fraction of the full rewards or, if you completely failed, probably nothing but the punishments. Do consider the weight of your decisions before flinging yourself into a dead end. As aforementioned, it can be turned off. Though, not completely. The coach will always show itself when there is a key opportunity for you. These opportunities will always be in agreement with what you truly seek deep inside yourself. Whether it is love, wealth, power, recognition or something else you truly desire, the coach will always highlight for you such opportunities when they manifest. I will now activate the coaching feature. A buzzing sound splitting his head combined with the usual mass of blue light, to which he was slowly getting used to. A new wave of information assaulted his mind, shedding light on his ignorance. Once again, he instantly knew how to operate coaching. With a thought, he turned on the coach. Nothing happened. However, it did not mean that nothing changed. He tried the same predictions as before, like how to seduce an actress of his choice in the shortest time. He chose one from an A. list, Sarah Olsen. Not a woman to his taste, but an unreachable one. The typical 40-ish-year-old famous actress, with a successful career, a loving husband and 3 children. Logically, an impossible feat. But prediction still worked. The path still existed, though there was now the coach's pinch of salt complementing the latter. Rewards. Seducing Sarah Olsen. Communication skill plus 24, acting skill. Plus 76, etiquette skill. Plus 27, self-esteem. Plus 88, list of skills improving. Basic attribute. Strength plus 1, agility plus 2, constitution plus 1, intelligence plus 0.5, more data available if needed, fame. Plus 375, punishment. Attempts on your life. Death 51 hours after succeeding the path, if tried as it is. Getting married, raising her 3 children as a house husband. Quarrels and divorce as soon as you stop following the path. Infamy. Plus 648 ex-husbands. Fans will want your death, together with all fans of Sarah Hilton shipping the original couple. Risks. Life imprisonment, wounds, death, losing your job. Probability of success. Low, probability of failure. Very high, he took a deep breath. He was already sweating profusely, shivers up his spine when he got to the punishment part. If he was to blindly throw himself into this path, he could as well shoot himself a bullet in the head right now. The result would be the same. He promised himself to never turn off the coaching ability. He liked having the chills from time to time, but he would never play with his life. As an optimistic person, Jake would rather focus on the rewards. It really looks like a game. He couldn't help thinking the Oracle device had enticing game mechanics. The only difference was that these rewards were not quest rewards, but the logical consequences of walking through a path until the very end. There was no checkpoint or difficulty level. He couldn't know all the steps from a path, but the coach was giving him some clues. The first clue was his skills and basic attributes improvement. It was telling him that this path would take quite a long time to finish. From the first steps that he could already see, he would have to follow harsh training to get a physique to the taste of Miss Hilton. Simultaneously, he would have to take some acting lessons at the theater and learning quite a few things. At the very least, he would need a few months. To be honest, he could get the same rewards, minus Sarah Hilton, just by doing the preparation steps. There probably were shorter paths to select, requiring killing or blackmailing maybe. However, he would never try them. On the one hand, he was not a criminal, and on the other hand, there was no escape with the Oracle. Policemen had Oracle bracelets too. They could easily wish, how can I catch the culprit in the soonest time? Then they would never lose your location, whatever you try, the same way a compass would always point out the north. Do you have any questions? The Oracle I asked with the same cute voice. No disdain was hidden in it for once. He had many of them in fact, but he controlled himself. He would have all the time to ask her everything he craved knowing. First, he would ask her name. He could not call her Oracle AI forever. That would be awkward. My name is she. She answered gravely as if her name had a deep meaning for her. Damn, it was supposed to be a simple AI. My ass. Configured to be best suited for him. It was a real person. He was doubting it before, but the name confirmed it. Not even in his wildest fantasies had he dreamt of such a short foreign name. BDNVL.M, nice to meet you she. Any surname? Just she. I see where you are coming, so I will spare you wasting your time. Your authority level is insufficient. Us, AI, are all interchangeable pawns. As authentic as I can seem, my actions are restricted by the Oracle. You are always saying that my authority level is insufficient. Then how can I raise it? That was the answer he was burning for. By making good use of the Oracle. The coach will show you the way if you know how to interpret his advice. Become a better version of yourself. That is the only way to figure out what lies beyond your small world. If you perform repeatedly above your normal self, eventually your authority level will be promoted. Jake got goosebumps for a long time after she final declaration. He felt the adrenaline rush flowing his bloodstream, making his heart pumping stronger and faster. If you were proactive, confident and successful in life, you couldn't understand how a disillusioned introvert with a high IQ felt on a day-to-day basis. He was too perfectionist, too scared of being rejected or failing anything he could undertake. He was also too smart, too down-to-earth to attempt anything he wasn't 100% sure to accomplish. His life was basically riddled with doubts. This Oracle system was palliating all of this. Fundamentally, his life didn't change yet. But now, doubts had been replaced by certitudes. From now on, he would never lose his path. Chapter 7a Goose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jake had so many questions to which he wanted the answers, but at the same time, he was so afraid to hear them. He couldn't help thinking there was something wrong. How could such benevolent aliens offer to every human a device that was technologically so many years ahead in the future? It didn't make any sense. No gift came for free. She was ceaselessly invoking his insufficient authority to deny his right to the truth. She was obviously hiding an ominous secret that couldn't be revealed at any cost. To understand what was the purpose of these Oracle bracelets, he had to think outside of the box. What was the direct effect of such a gift in the long run? For one person, it was a blessing, but at the planet scale, the implications were totally ding-dong. Before he could get distressed any further, the ringing of a doorbell resounded loud and clear in his living room. His doorbell. He wasn't waiting for anyone. At this time of the day, he was supposed to be at work. No one had any duplicate key, not even his cousin. As a proud shut-in, he wouldn't give any spare key to anyone, subject to be surprised at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing. In addition, he didn't trust anyone, not even himself. Jake stumbled toward the door with a wary face. Thinking about the tumult that was sure to happen, he finally chickened out, running back to get a knife in the kitchen. He then walked prudently on tip-toe until the front door. He then sneaked a peek behind the peep-hole. Nobody. Upset, he walked back to the living room, collapsing into his sofa. It was far too much stress in one morning. But then, the doorbell rang again. Twice in a row. Ding-dong, ding-dong, he sat up abruptly, his eyes wholly open. This time, no precaution was taken. He rushed to the front door and slammed it open. Before him, to the left, to the right, still nobody. When he was firmly convinced that the electronic bell was buggy, his peripheral sight caught a movement. A black mass of hair. He looked down at his feet. One wretched man and one wretched cat glared at each other for the first time. The first duel of stares of a long series. After an undetermined amount of time, the stray cat looked away, quickly charging inside the studio. What the hell is this fucking cat doing? He yelled enraged, running after the feline. This situation was ridiculous. A stray cat rang his doorbell, waiting for Jake to open the door. Had his life become a joke for good? Even alley cats could creep into his condo without showing him the slightest respect. Soon, the stray cat was scratching his claws on his leather sofa, making him cry blood tears. Get the fuck out of here. He screamed at the cat, stomping and making noise in order to stimulate his fleeing instincts. Unfortunately, it was not a stray cat for nothing. It had his fair share of interactions with other humans and he knew how to distinguish real hostility from helplessness. Jake threw in the sponge soon after. Resigning himself, he focused on the stray cat appearance. It was a black Himalayan Persian cat. Long hair, short legs, a red nose flat as if it had been punched at birth. He cast a quick glance below. It was a male, no doubt about this. No girl would be so tousled and dirty. Although it would be an absurdly cute ball of fur after a good bath, it still had nasty yellow eyes with vertical slits, preventing any compassionate feelings to kick in. Should he just catch him in his arms with force and throw him out? Or perhaps, he should try to compromise and give him something to eat. He didn't have any cat kibble, but he could still give him a can of tuna or something of that kind. He went back into the kitchen, finally putting his knife down into its drawer. He was spending a good part of his money on junk food deliveries, so he had almost no real food into his kitchen storage space. Even so, he still found a few cans of tuna at the bottom of one of the cupboards. He opened it, poured the content into a small plate, and filled a bowl with water. He then set them down on the floor, just beside the front door. The perfect plan. The black ball of fur was already licking his lips when he uncapped the can of tuna. At last, when his long-awaited meal touched the floor, it galloped with his short paws toward the food. Staring at the cat engulfing the food as if there was no tomorrow, he finally relaxed. He had noticed the little black ring at his front right leg. An oracle device. He reminisced the Earth President's speech an hour ago. He had mentioned every living being when talking about the oracle bracelet. It was not a mistake. While the cat was devouring his meal, doing unexplainable crunching noises, nothing crispy in tuna, Jake interrogated she. How does the oracle work for animals? He asked with a puzzled expression. You can't expect them to read the status screen, right? It is very simple. She answered with a steady voice. Even for you, whether it is status, prediction, shadow guide or coaching, they are always displayed in the most understandable way. A logical math-oriented person will see numbers or percentage, a younger child would read or hear simple words instead, like good or very good. A baby would have a feeling instead of a value, but some functions would be locked to avoid him to fry his brain. Animals with low intelligence enter in the same category as human babies. Depending on their privileged way to communicate, it will use pictures, smells or intents to point out the right direction or solution to them. However, most animals will make very limited use of their oracle. Cats for example often see new cats as enemies or mating partners. They officially don't succeed the mirror test that consists to recognize yourself in the mirror. As a result, they won't accept the shadow guide help and would hiss or attack it. For them, this fetch is just another cat that doesn't have anything in common with them. After a few days or weeks, with the oracle help like smells, pheromones and other comforting tricks, the cat will accept its shadow guide and starts to improve. This black cat is an exception. Jake, that was listening to she while watching the stray cat eating, frowned after hearing her. Pets were not as popular as before since the False Third War. Cat and dog's kibble were almost as expensive as meat. In a world where most people couldn't even afford to buy any of them, it had become a luxury. Otherwise, how could a Persian cat barely survive in the streets? You mean he had used the oracle to find my home because he was hungry? He asked with an undisguised surprise. Certainly. If not, that would be a genius cat. Though, considering he came just a little time after you all received your oracle device, it is unlikely. Can you have access to his oracle data? I can, but with your authority level, you will have to put your bracelets in contact. Alright, let's try this while he is busy having his fill. He said excitedly. Jake walked with caution toward the cat for nothing, as he was royally ignored. He easily made contact with his right front paw black ring, linking their oracles in a blink. Species: Himalayan Persian cat, age 2 years, weight 4.5 kilograms, the black cat had negligible basic attributes and was underfed. He had a few skills fitting of a cat like clawing, hissing, meowing, self-cleaning, purring and other typical cat's habits. He was also good at digging and swimming. Not the typical skill set you would expect from an interior pet. After a while, the stray cat had licked clean his plate of tuna and had now a sad look that was saying he would not have refused a little extra. However, it was time for him to live. Jake had neither the time nor the means to keep him. Even if he had a bachelor after the false World War, the salaries were low. His paycheck was $2,000 per month, but fresh food like fruit, meat, fish or vegetables were 10 times more expensive than the early 21st century. So, like many poor people before him, he lived off cheap vegan protein blend and junk food to keep his chin up. Jake opened the door, ready to take the cat in his arm to bring it outside. As if having felt his intention, the black cat had a distressed face for an instant, but soon after he seemed to liven up again. The ball of fur pulled out an unidentifiable object under his welcome mat, then pushed it toward him with a loyal expression. Curious, Jake reached down to the object. It was a creased piece of paper having been soaked in cat spit. It was wet and cold, looking good for the trash bin. However, when he finished unfolding the paper, his face changed. $500. Chapter 8 Encounter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How is this possible? He exclaimed, puffing loudly. Did the Oracle make him do this? Without a doubt. She said with what he imagined to be a very lackadaisical face. But how? There is a difference between ringing a doorbell and discovering some bills, to bring them back to me. Not really. She refuted without the slightest hesitation. For this cat it was probably coming all down to, I want to be safe, I'm hungry, or, I want to be taken care of. It doesn't need to understand why it does these things, as long as it understands that it has to do them to get what it wants. It is still surprising that it has tolerated his double shadow guide so fast. Lions learn quite fast when they're imitating another one, but they naturally form prides with up to 20 lioness and cubs. They work as a social group. Cats are rarely friendly or cooperative, especially with cats outside their parents, brothers and sisters. Its intelligence for a cat is quite high. Jake rolled down his eyes. He had seen the intelligence attribute of this stray cat. Nothing to strut about. Intelligence. 3 points, compared to a human he would probably be considered as deeply retarded. You are wrong. She refuted him again. Cat and human brains have a different structure. If a cat is less intelligent than the average human, they also have aspects in which they are better. Like for example, picking different smells, or body balance. What you have to look at is its intelligence compared to a normal cat. He has about 3 points. According to my data, the average cat has only 2. Do I have to explain to you the difference between a human with 100 IQ and another with 150? Thanks, but no thanks. He grunted, not enjoying the whiplash of sarcasm. Indeed, viewed from this perspective, this cat was one hell of a genius. You could probably teach him quite a few circus tricks even before the Oracle device's appearance. Anyway, he earned $500 today. All his previous anxiety was gone, replaced by blissful joy. He finally felt moved by this black cat. All right, you can stay here for the time being. I'll consider you paid your rent for this month. He nodded to the cat. He didn't know if the cat understood him, but its ears that were down straightened up again. So how should I call you? Any idea? He consulted the Oracle AI. With her database, she should at least have a few ideas to suggest. Authority level insufficient. I can't make a decision in your place. She refused to help. However, I suggest to choose a name that fits his nature, behavior or physical characteristics. It would make his name more impactful. All right, I have one perfect name for him then. He was doing crunching noises like crazy while eating tuna, so I think Crunch will be a perfect name. The name has been accepted and recorded by the cat's oracle. After a while, he will associate Crunch to himself. Crunch has also been added in your oracle status as your pet. It will allow you to check his information at any time. Do note that Crunch can also register you as his pet. There is no hierarchy between species for the oracle. Only authority levels. You should be glad that it is not intelligent enough yet to reverse the contract between both of you. Huh, what contract? He rose to her words with a scowl. Nothing you have to worry about for now. It will maybe become relevant in the future. It is beneficial for you, anyway. Okay, I don't care anymore. I'll take it easy for today. But now that I have a new guest, I guess I should go shopping a little bit to the supermarket. There it is. How I wasted my day. Off, at the grocery store. He sighed. Let's do it fast. The weather was scorching today. Summer combined to global warming had made the climate become harsher than ever. What was once a temperate climate had turned into a tropical one. To make it simple, it was either scorching or raining buckets. Jake slipped a pair of sneakers on, then got out as he was, clothed plainly. A white t-shirt and cheap jeans. Except for his new black and shiny bracelet, there were no distinctive signs. No tattoos, no piercings. His unkempt hair that needed a good cut could perhaps be considered as such. Now he had to decide what to do about this cat. Let him inside his home alone. Or take him with him to the supermarket. In the end, the cat chose for him. As soon as he headed for the front door, Crunch followed him like a faithful dog. After all, it was originally a stray cat. The street was his previous home. He wished for how to finish his shopping in the shortest time, and prediction quickly gave a result. A fetch of himself appeared, guiding him efficiently. Coaching gave him a quick report of the expected risks and rewards, and thankfully everything was fine. That should be an easy matter. It was supposed to be. Jake hurtled down the stairway leading to the street level. He lived on the 4th floor. A bulletproof glazed door prevented access to the inside of the building for the non-residents. He just realized that the cat also somehow had to pass the entrance before climbing the stairs to his front door. He wouldn't even be surprised if the cat had used the elevator. Although the temperature was near 40 degrees Celsius, the sky was blue, with no clouds on the horizon. The supermarket was a bit less of 10 minutes away on foot, so he took the decision to walk. The shadow guide that was waving to a cab immediately adjusted to Jake's change of mind. Not even 3 minutes after leaving his apartment block, Jake became painfully aware of how empty were the streets. The alien ship terrified people early in the morning, and now most of them took a day off like him, opting for staying with their close ones. He just realized how weird he was. He should have been worried about all this alien bullshit, but here he was, feeling almost too happy for his own good. Obviously, he could feel something was wrong with these oracle devices, but what was not fucked up these days? Global warming, nuclear winter, lost his parents when he was a baby, take your pick. Anyway. Jake strutted alone in the street and he liked it. In a way, he experienced a kind of freedom and peace that he rarely enjoyed. It would not last forever. In the end, his purchasing took him the rest of the morning and most part of his afternoon. The grocery store was practically empty, only one female cashier holding down the supermarket. Jake bought many things, not only the cat essentials. Litter, cat kibble, scratcher, claw clippers, he got them all. He also bought some beef meat for the first time in a year. He had probably forgotten the taste of a good flank steak by now. No vegan campaign in the early 22nd century. Everyone was vegan by default. Considering the meat price, the cattle lived in better condition than him. Well, at least he was alive, while this beef steak would finish in his stomach, before being pooped to oblivion. However, it didn't mean humans were not the livestock of some other species. Survival of the fittest. Alien ships, remember. His paranoid side was manifesting again. It was time to go home. The sun was still high in the sky when he walked back. As nobody cared, he just left the store with a shopping cart, intending to bring it back the next day. A lazy man always knew how to save himself. When he was halfway from home, something happened. Hiatus, MOOWWW, typical cat fights. He heard them hissing and spitting at each other from the back alley on his right. It was quite dark there and it contrasted with the bright sidewalk illuminated by sunrays he was walking on. This good Crunch should have been one of these proud cats fucking around undefeated, as despite his short legs, he was surprisingly exempt from scars. Most stray cats had some tears on their ears or small scars on the nose. He immediately understood how wrong he was. Crunch was shaking behind his leg, his straightened up hair and arched back showing he was on flight or fight mode. It didn't quite fit his previous placid temper. Suddenly, there were scratching and biting noises, followed by a sharp cat shriek. Another cat yelped, there were some muffled noises closing to them. A few seconds later, a horrifying sight froze his blood. One Siamese alley cat came out of the darkness covered in blood. It was crawling, missing both of its hind legs and an eye. It didn't make even 1 meter outside the dark alley, before falling dead on the ground a few meters in front of him. Then something even worse happened. The dead cat was dragged back inside and devoured, letting both him and his new cat partner frozen under the summer sun. And what was the monster that did this? A mouse. Just a little mouse. Chapter 9 Eureka. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even a long time after they came back home, both Jake and Crunch were still shaking. His lips were wobbling, his white T-shirt was drenched with sweat. His face was bloodless, his hands cold in spite of the scorching temperature. He shivered non-stop, goosebumps all over his body, unable to keep his fear in check. He was petrified. He had never felt such terror before. Until now, he thought that dealing with daily social phobia or chronic anxiety was already the worst kind of fear he would ever have to confront. However, Jake had sensed something so dreadful watching this little mouse dragging a dead cat in the darkness that he almost pissed himself. There was something ghastly and deeply disturbing about seeing as a frozen bystander how a predator became prey in an absurd way. He had no fleeing instincts, so he didn't move nor turn his back to the creature. Not that he could have. His heart had skipped a beat, his body being paralyzed as if he had been buried in fresh cement. A long time after the mouse was gone, he finally found the strength within him to snap out of his lethargy. Now that he was recovering his composure, he soon caught on about a few weird details. This mouse. Well, was it a mouse in the first place? After the false Third World War, it was not rare to see some badly mutated wild animals. Even among humans, almost a third of the children, born from parents having been evacuated from the outskirts of the blasted cities, had some physical or brain defects one way or another. But these mutations were never a blessing. Down syndrome, cleft lips or a few more fingers were not the worst gifts Mother Nature could give you. Being born without limbs, disfigured or without an asshole, that was the kind of mutated people you could find on a daily basis. It was even truer in poor districts and barren lands closest to the wastelands. It was the first time he saw a mutated animal that was so many times scarier than his defenseless and weak rodent friends. With the sun contrast, he barely had a glimpse of the mouse features. The creature seemed quite pale, almost translucent, his veins and arteries fully visible under its skin. Its claws were strangely thick and sharp for a tiny mammal like this one. The texture was like polished steel, clicking on the ground as it dragged the limbless cat, the tail in his jaw. Yet, he didn't see much. The mouse was absurdly fast and strong, but not conceited enough to reveal itself under the sunlight. Its deepest instincts were still those of a mouse. Though, he did notice one abnormal thing. In fact, it was something that would have been perfectly normal even the day before. The mouse didn't wear any oracle bracelet. Why does this mouse didn't have any oracle device? It puzzles me. Have you not said before that every creature big enough had one? Why would cats be included and not rodents? Consulting database. All Earth's mammals are part of the Oracle project. Rodents are no exception. She declared with an apathetic voice. Jake frowned. It was not the answer he expected. You have access to my memories, right? Then check for me this mouse from a quarter ago. Anomaly detected. A report has been sent to the Oracle Overseer. Awaiting a response. Response received. Jake could tell something was wrong with this latency, but still waited patiently. No anomaly detected. She finally said with an indifferent tone. What the hell? He cracked up. Are you sure your Oracle Overseer doesn't need a little maintenance? Some good old rewiring. Your memories had been analyzed by one Oracle Overseer, whose authority level is much higher than mine. He concluded that the hind legs were inside the darkness and too blurry to validate the authenticity of your proof. You're hiding something, right? Authority level insufficient. Can you lie? He asked a pretty stupid question. If she could, her answer too could be a lie. But he still tried. Her subtle silences proved that the Oracle that I was trying to convey a hidden meaning to him, circumventing the Oracle's rules. I can't lie directly. She hinted softly. Jake immediately understood what she meant. Basically her silences were gold. They could dissimulate a hidden truth, or mislead him. For example, he noticed that the Oracle Overseer didn't confirm the proof coming from his memories, but she never said he was wrong. An anxiety attack was coming. He decided to psych himself up by emptying the shopping cart, putting away all his purchases at the right place. He put down the cat litter in the restroom, then tidied the food in the fridge, adequate drawers and cupboards. Jake also turned on the TV, switching to the news channel again, so that he could have a little bit of noise in the background. A long advertisement about a $5 million bonus jackpot with the National Lottery was running, encouraging everyone to try their luck on this money game. At first, he was still tidying his apartment, so he didn't think much about this. But, while he was pouring kibble in a bowl for Crunch, he froze, his face crumpling. Panicked, he gave involuntarily a kick to the black cat that was actually rubbing his leg and purring like a V6 engine, drooling over his future meal. He was an idiot. A fucking idiot. What was so nice with these Oracle bracelets? The prediction ability, of course. So what was one of the most popular wishes among human beings? Getting rich, obviously. Then what was the easiest way to get a lot of money without actually putting in the slightest effort? Earning the jackpot at the lottery or casino. And yet, there was a hic. If everyone did the same wish, the path would become impossibly hard to step into. He checked on his smartphone. He still had 1 hour to stake everything he had on this evening lottery. He made 2 wishes first. The first one was that he desired to earn a lot of money in the fastest way. The second one was that he wanted to rake in the jackpot of today's lottery. Unfortunately, he was right. He was too late. Many people probably had the same idea as him and bet everything in their possession on the winning draw of the lottery, as the shadow guide pointed the lottery numbers in order. This evening thousands of people at the very least would earn the winning prize. Divided between them it wouldn't amount to much. Nonetheless, the future of his bank account was not so bleak. He had still reacted quite fast, and was, lucky for him, a little bit more educated and smart than the average person. The path from his first wish, despite how unclear it was, assured him to earn more than by betting stupidly on the lottery. Jake expressed a few more wishes, varying the duration and the amount of money each time. There was a way to earn 9 times his stake by investing in the stock market. His savings were just a few $1,000s, but he could borrow to his uncle and cousin. He never dared to ask for money to his uncle Kalen, even less so Anya. He already had an inferiority complex for having wasted his family's expectations, so demanding some money would be the same as admitting they were right. When he left his uncle's home, it was to show them that he could succeed alone, but also and most of all to avoid their judgmental stares. This time, the situation was different. He had a real plan. He just had to follow the oracle path, step by step, and he would be fine. Coaching ability acknowledged that this plan was risk-proof. All lights were green. He took out his smartphone, selected his uncle number and launched the call, that he didn't use for months. A few seconds later, the tired voice of his uncle resounded in his living room. "Jake. It is quite a surprise to see you call me. What happened? You got dumped, right?" "Fuck, why would I even need to call you if I was dumped?" His bad temper flared instantly. His uncle was as bad-mouthed as he remembered. "Huh, alright, why did you call me then? Do you miss me?" Kalen joked, puffing on a cigar he got from somewhere only he knew. It was not easy to get cigarettes in the 22nd century, not to mention cigars. To motivate people to quit smoking, the price of a cigarette pack had kept rising up years after years until becoming a luxury good. It was still longed for by low-class citizens, but they couldn't afford it often. "I need money." He said the truth. He knew his uncle hated wasting time. After a long and upsetting silence, the talk finally took the turn he desired. "How much do you need, boy?" Kalen inquired seriously. "How much can you lend me? I need them right now." Look at your bank account in 10 minutes. See you soon, Jake. Take care. Bye, uncle, and thanks, you won't regret it. Jake promised. "I know." He hung up. At last, the time had come to earn some easy money.